President Lippy, I might recommend that you go ahead and take another roll call before you begin again.
I can, but I can see everybody. Okay. For the record. Debbie Veal, unmute. Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can. Thank you. Okay. Is Ryan Brooks back? Ryan? I'll skip over. Maria?
I'm here. Thank you.
This is
Thank
the
you.
moderator. Looks like Ryan fell off the call, but I am promoting him to a panelist now.
Okay, thanks. Albert?
Albert's here.
Thank you. Jig?
I'm here.
Thank you. Shirley? I'm sorry. Ricardo?
Yeah, I'm
You're
still here.
I know. Carol?
Here.
Thank you. Sung?
I'm here.
Thank you. Is Ryan back?
I am. I'm here.
Okay, great. Okay, everybody's here. I'm here too. Okay, we can begin.
All right, this is the moderator. I will go ahead and promote our petitioner up to a panelist. And I will also promote the council up to a panelist.
Hello?
So I just muted Gilbert because it sounded like we were having some audio feedback. If you could please connect.
I can share with my client. It's not a problem at all. If you can see us, if you can see my client, I can share with him.
Oh, okay, thank you. If we could just keep one of your mics muted so we don't get that audio feedback. Thank you.
Is this good now?
Yes.
Is that better now?
Yes, it sounds fine.
Wonderful. And you can see us, right? Is that correct?
This is the moderator. Give me 1 second. I got to expand my view of videos. Fortunately, I'm not seeing your video.
Oh, looks like it's on.
It's on.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go. We can see you now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, this is Judge Shakir. Are we ready to go, Mr. President?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm opening the record in the matter of the petition for reinstatement before the Board of Pharmacy of Arutun Termataboisin. The agency case number is 4338. The Office of Administrative Hearings case number is 2020-060-391. Administrative Law Judge John DeCure. Today is Thursday, June 18th, 2020. It's approximately 1:35 in the afternoon. And this matter is being heard due to the health crisis telephonically. We have audio visual as well. May I have appearances, please, beginning with the Deputy Attorney General.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis. I am appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California.
Thank you. And for the petitioner?
Good afternoon, Your Honor, Mr. President, and members of the board. Gilbert Tomazian for the petitioner.
All right. And for the record, your client is present and participating for the hearing. I see him sitting next to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right,
this is the moderator. Can I interject just real quick?
Yes.
Judge DeCure, could you please get a little bit closer to your mic? It is a little difficult to hear you.
Actually, I'm mic'd through my computer. I have a headset, so I'm going to turn up my volume. I apologize to anybody if this becomes uncomfortable for you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, this is the third petition we've heard today, so I'm going to get right to it with Ms. Jarvis. She's heard the first two as well. Ms. Jarvis, I'd like to start with the petitioner's exhibit, which has been lodged electronically with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I have a copy of it myself, and I assume that the board members all received copies of theirs through the board. Go ahead.
Yes, that is correct. Exhibit 1 was previously uploaded to OAH and provided to each board member. It consists of the notice to petitioner for this petition hearing here today, the agreement for electronic recording, and the petition for reinstatement with the attachments that was submitted by petitioner or his counsel on petitioner's behalf. Exhibit 1 also consists of the decision and order in case number 4338 with the underlying accusation, which revoked petitioner's license. And I'd ask that it be admitted at this time.
All right, Exhibit 1 is marked. Is there any objection, Mr. Tomazian, for Exhibit 1 to be received and admitted in evidence?
No, Your Honor.
All right, there being no objection, Exhibit 1 is received. What I'd like to do is just get right into opening statements. Ms. Jarvis, you may proceed first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. And for the record, once again, my role here is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. This matter arose through an accusation filed against petitioner due to a substantially related criminal conviction. On or about March 1st, 2011, petitioner was convicted of burglary and grand theft. On or about January 12th, 2011, while employed as a pharmacy technician at a hospital, petitioner was observed via surveillance camera taking 2 prescription bottles from the pharmacy stockroom, appearing to be removing labels from the bottles, taking the bottles into the restroom, and then walking out of the pharmacy and the hospital onto the street. Petitioner was followed and escorted back to the pharmacy, where it was discovered that he had hidden 2 prescription bottles in one of his socks. The dollar amount of the theft, exceeded $7,000. The hospital had already been investigating 2 previous thefts of prescription medication, of which petitioner was also convicted. In aggravation, on or about December 10th, 2009, petitioner was convicted of disturbing the peace after an incident where he was observed striking his wife and pulling her hair while she was seated in the driver's seat and he in the passenger seat of a vehicle. Petitioner told the police officers that he was too drunk to recall if he had punched his wife. A hearing in this matter was held on February 26, 2014. Petitioner did not appear at the hearing, but he was represented by an attorney, and so he appeared in absentia. Petitioner stipulated to the occurrence of both convictions at the hearing, but he did not agree with the facts of the disturbing the peace conviction. Petitioner presented no mitigation evidence at the hearing, but as rehabilitation, petitioner established that his conviction for theft of the prescription medications had been expunged pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4. With the petition today, petitioner has submitted 4 letters of recommendation. All 4 letters were verified by board staff. However, none of the authors stated that they were aware of the board's disciplinary action in this matter. Petitioner has also provided information that he coaches soccer, is above the 85th percentile in the ability to perform push-ups, certificates of appreciation from 1994 and 1997 for volunteering and making donations to the City of Glendale and the Glendale Police Department, and other certificates, most of which are dated in the 1990s. In the decision revoking petitioner's license, he was ordered to pay $4,032.50 by May 20th, 2014. Now, sometimes that clause is that he pay that amount of money upon reinstatement, but this was within 15 days of the effective date of the decision, therefore May 20th of 2014. Petitioner has not made any payments towards this amount and is approximately 6 years overdue. Since Exhibit 1 is already in evidence, it is now petitioner's opportunity to address the board. Thank you.
All right, this is Judge DeCure. Mr. Tamazian, you may make your opening statement. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. My client was arrested for corporal injury in 2009, and at that time, the victim in the case, alleged victim in the case, was his then and current wife. And based on the record and shown by the findings by the board, clearly at the time when he pled, this charge was refused to a disturbing of the peace 415 PC, because as the petitioner will testify, his wife went to court and clarified things in court, and the matter was reduced only to fighting between the husband and wife. At the time when all this occurred, my client had lost his father and he was not in a right state of mind. In 2011, Your Honor, he also was arrested for taking medications from the hospital he was working in as a pharmacy technician. In fact, when he was arrested, he was charged. He appeared in court in February and then in March, and his then counsel made a deal with the court to plead him to all the charges for a probationary sentence and no further jail and restitution. At that time, Mr. Matavosian will testify, Your Honor, that when he accepted that proposition by his attorney, which was on a second court appearance, he was not advised of the consequences, if I may say, the secondary consequence of his plea, to it having the fact that he would affect his license, and the fact that there was a huge amount of restitution that was being claimed by the hospital against my client, Mr. Matavosian. Mr. Matavosian, at that time, when he realized through probation that there's a huge amount of money being asked for refund as restitution, he realized that something had gone wrong. He hired another attorney, and he presented evidence to the court that a few $100,000 they were asking for restitution from him, he had no involvement with. He had no absolute connection with those thefts. And in fact, his attorney, after a few appearances, was able to establish that the only liability he's accepting, and they can actually prove against him, is because of that incident on January 12th of 2011. However, because his attorney had agreed to had him plead open to the court, from my understanding, on all the charges to get this disposition for him that had no jail sentence, he agreed to accept responsibility for the prior two incidents, one of which he was not responsible for. Having said that, his restitution then by the court was set at $7,000 and some change, which he paid fully through probation department. It wasn't until 2 years later that he received a letter from the board indicating that they are placing him into proceedings with respect to suspension and or revocation of his license. He once again hired an attorney and provided all the adequate information to his attorney, and his attorney appeared for the hearing without him. And he had at all time, meaning my client, Mr. Tamadavosian, at all time intended to produce evidence of his being remorseful, his mitigation, and everything else. However, the board can clearly see that this decision was that issued on March 7, 2014, on paragraph 13, the letter that was prepared by the attorney to be submitted on behalf of the respondent at the time for his mitigation and his remorselessness and rehabilitation was not accepted by the court because there was an objection for it to be hearsay, and no one ever heard his story with respect to his condition and why he did this. But Mr. Tamadavosian has been extremely active in doing a lot of volunteer work, raising his children, working at school. And in fact, I see that the memorandum to the board indicates that there has been 4 letters of recommendation. In fact, there have been 5. I'm not too sure why is it that the board is missing that, because it was provided. It is a recommendation letter from Valley College of Medical Career that was prepared and signed by Stephanie Kalnick on December 14, 2018. This is a college where my client decided to start working for years, meaning volunteering for years as an assistant, to be in contact and in touch with his profession as a pharmacist technician, helping them to teach students. And this letter, since you don't have it, eventually my client will testify to, and I'll read it to record so the board can see, and Your Honor, that he's been doing a lot of volunteer work at that college and eventually was hired there, as well as he was working on another volunteer firm, which is now president of, on food bank for a lot of needy people for food. Having said that, Your Honor and the board members, I believe that my client has rehabilitated himself. I believe that the board's decision previously revoking his license was short of actual evidence from his side to try to establish what he did to rehabilitate himself, what he did to the reason why he did this, and how remorseful he's been for his conduct. Having said all this, I will stop my opening at this time and question Mr. Termatavosian about his events of leading up to today's hearing, Your Honor.
If I may interject briefly, this is Christina Jarvis. I do see that letter that you reference. It's on page 31 of the petition packet. And ALJ to cure, if the petition packet uploaded in multiple parts, then it's 31 starting from the beginning, because mine is in one PDF.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so I don't know why the memo said only 4, but you are correct. There were 5. That does mean that this 5th letter was not verified, but it was not attempted to be verified. So that is what it is.
All right. 1 second. This is Judge Shakir. Can you tell me what the legal objection is, counsel? I didn't quite catch it.
Is that to me, Your Honor?
No, the objection came from the deputy AG. Ms. Jarvis?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I was trying to correct the record. So I had stated there were 4 letters, and opposing counsel had stated that there was a 5th letter that was submitted. And I'm acknowledging there is a 5th letter in the petition packet.
Okay.
So my statement was incorrect, and then the memo to the board members is also incorrect because it states 4 letters, and that 4 letters were verified. This is a 5th letter. It's at page 31 in the petition packet.
All right. I've got it. Thank you. Okay, so counsel, you're going to be calling one witness, your client?
That is correct, Your Honor. Mr. Termatavosian. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Sir, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that in the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding, you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you very much. Start out by stating and spelling your full name for the record, please.
Arutyan Termatavosian, Arutym, TER-MATEVOSYAN.
All right. Thank you very much. I want to explain to you a little bit about the process of testimony. It's a little different today because, of course, we're all on the telephone due to the health crisis, and you are sitting next to your attorney. Even though your attorney is your legal counsel and you hired him and you're relying on him for advice and counsel, it's important that when you're being asked questions by anybody, including your lawyer, including Ms. Jarvis, and including perhaps board members who will get a chance to ask questions themselves, that you really should be on a witness stand. In the real world, you'd be separate and apart from everybody. And that's how it works in our legal justice system. Since you're sitting next to your lawyer, I want to just ask you not to pause and confer with him or pass notes back and forth regarding your answers, because you're being asked to give sworn testimony under oath, and the answers you give need to come directly from you. And I'm not suggesting that you and your counsel were going to do that, but I'm just saying because of the unusual circumstances where the two of you are sitting inches across from each other and you're separate from the rest of us, I wanted you to be aware that that's a really important thing. You've got to be able to testify absolutely standing on your own 2 feet with no input from your attorney. Okay, thank you. Now,
Thank you.
this is an adversarial process to an extent. Ms. Jarvis is going to be listening to each question that your attorney asks you. He's going to start out on direct examination. He'll be bringing out your testimony by asking you questions first. What I'd like you to do is be careful when he's questioning you, and also when Ms. Jarvis questions you later on cross-examination, not to be in a rush to give your answers. Please don't clip off the end of the question with your answer, because both attorneys have the ability to lodge an objection, a legal objection, at the end of a question that's asked of you. And so if you're in a rush to answer, your voice will clash with the attorney making an objection. And then I have to jump in, I have to stop everything, we have to wind it back and start over. So just be patient, let several seconds go by as you think about your answer. Make sure nobody is objecting, and then give your answer. Probably 4 or 5 seconds will do it. If you're asked a question and you don't understand what the question calls for, what it means, just let us know and it will be rephrased for you so that it's more clear. If you're asked a question and you don't know what the answer would be because it's outside of the scope of your knowledge or experience or your past recollection, I don't want you to conjure up an answer. There's no pressure on you to come up with answers that you don't have. That's actually called speculation, and in the law, we can't consider speculation as evidence. So there may be times when the correct answer to a question is, I don't know, and that's perfectly acceptable. All right, so we'll begin with your attorney asking you questions on direct examination. Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Termatevosyan, when did you become a pharmacy technician?
I finished my school in 1998.
And did you get your license in the same year?
Yes, before that, while I was going to school, I was a pharmacy clerk at Save On Pharmacy in Burbank and attending school at the same time till I get my license in 98.
Do you recall what date in 98 you received your license?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. Now, after you received your pharmacy technician license, did you start working as a technician?
Yes, I was doing my extension, my hours in Century City Hospital. Once I finished my hours, immediately I got hired there to do IVs, fill cassettes, Pixas machines.
And for how long did you work at that hospital?
About 3 or 4 years. 4 years.
And what were your duties at that hospital?
Going to the floors, checking TPNs, making the TPNs for the patients, checking all the IVs, make sure they're not expired, bringing them back, making all the new ones, deliver them, fill the cassettes, exchange the cassettes to the floors, to the nursing units, and making, narcotic medications for the patients also.
While working there, was your employer happy with you?
As my knowledge, very happy.
Did you at some point stop working there?
Yes, I got recommended to try to apply for Children's Hospital. So I did, which was closer to my house. And I got hired there immediately also after I applied for it.
I want to ask you a question. There was a recommendation letter that you had provided to the board by Miss Rosalie Karpuz. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Who is she?
She was a registered pharmacist in Century City Hospital. That's why I met her. And she's the one who recommended me to go to Children's Hospital where she was working.
Was she working with you closely?
At Century City, yes.
For how long?
Maybe about 2 years, 3 years.
And did you ask her to give you a letter of recommendation?
For today?
For these proceedings?
Yes.
And did she give it to you?
Yes.
And that's the letter that was provided to the board, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Just for the board's observation, that'll be the second recommendation letter on the memorandum provided for the board. Did you then apply to work at a different hospital?
No, from Children's Hospital, that's where I worked. And
No, from Century City.
No, Children's only.
Okay, so you moved to Children's Hospital?
Correct.
Did you leave Century City with good terms?
Definitely, yes.
Did you have any issues at Century City with your supervisor or as a pharmacy technician while working there for that 4-year period?
None at all.
Were you able to return up for any reason as an employee there, as a pharmacy technician working for that hospital?
No.
Did you start working for Children's Hospital right after Century City Hospital?
Yes.
And when did you start there, do you remember? Just approximate year, if you remember.
It's 2003, 2004, I'm guessing.
Okay. And what was your position at that hospital?
Pharmacy technician.
And what were your duties there as a pharmacy technician? What did you do?
Well, I can say I was one of the main ones where I could work every satellite, every department, pharmacy departments throughout the hospital. I was a chemotherapy certified, so I was making all the chemos for the patients, IVs, same filling cassettes, Pixas machine, making the narcotic drips. everything, and whatever pharmacy needed, I was able to do it.
And how many hours a week were you working there?
I was full time, 40 hours a week.
And you worked there without any breaks until January 12, 2011, when you were arrested?
Correct.
That would be about almost 9.5 years, correct?
Correct.
Now, you have provided the board with a letter of recommendation from a Nana Utuzbirian. Do you know this person?
Yes.
Okay. And for the board's view, that'll be the first letter mentioned in the board's memorandum. Now, who is Nana Utuzbirian?
She was my coworker at Children's Hospital.
For how long was she working with you?
From first day when she was there
Until
2011.
Did you work with her on a daily basis?
Most of the time, yes. We see each other every day.
And did you ask her to provide a letter of recommendation for the board?
Yes.
And is that the letter that's provided to the board, signed by Ms. Nana Utuzbirian, the pharmacy technician?
Yes.
Now, January 12th, 2011, you were arrested, correct?
Correct.
What were you arrested for?
Taking medication from the hospital.
Okay. And were you then taken to jail?
I was, yes, taken to jail.
Did you bail out?
Yes.
Did you then go to court?
Yes.
Did you know what month you went in court the first time?
January, February?
About February?
Something, yes.
Okay. Did you hire an attorney?
Correct, yes.
And did you at some point agree to accept responsibility and plead guilty or no contest to this charge?
Yes, first told me to say no contest, and when I said that, I think prosecutor didn't agree with it. So my attorney advised me to say guilty and take the charges.
Did you plead guilty to all the counts in the complaint?
Yes.
Was that pursuant to your attorney's advice?
Correct, yes.
Let me ask you a question. When you were arrested and went to court and hired this attorney, did you advise your attorney of all the things that you had done wrong at the hospital?
What I didn't
Meaning, did you tell him what you had taken and when you'd taken them, the medication?
Yeah, I think he knew, yeah.
Okay. Did he know that you were a pharmacy technician?
Yes.
Did he know you have a license?
Yes.
When you pled guilty to those charges on March 11, 2011, did anybody tell you anything about the consequences your plea would have on your license with the pharmacy board?
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object. We've talked a little bit about what other people know and what other people have advised him. That's really not relevant for this proceeding. Whether or not he knew of this result, he's the professional. It's his responsibility. Your Honor, we can't hear you.
All right, this is Judge DeCure. Can you hear me better?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to sustain the objection. Counsel, the convictions are what they are at this point, and there's a lot of case law that makes it very plain in California that you cannot essentially attack a conviction. And when we get into this type of Q&A involving what the petitioner knew or didn't know or believed or was advised when he entered his plea, it really is not relevant. It's also hearsay. So I'm going to sustain the objection. Go ahead and ask another question.
Thank you, Your Honor. The purpose of my questioning that issue was not to contest the conviction, but to delve into mitigating factors, Your Honor. That's why I started asking those questions. Otherwise, my intention is not in any way to attack the conviction at this time or at any time in the future, if that makes sense, Your Honor. May I proceed?
All right. Thank you. Go ahead, ask another question. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So after you pled guilty, you were placed on probation?
Yes.
Were you on probation for some time?
It's 3 years, and I think I had to do 300 hours of community service.
Did you complete that successfully?
Yes.
Did you pay the restitution as ordered by the court?
Correct, yes.
And did you complete probation successfully?
Yes.
Were you able to expunge your record?
Yes.
And did you do that already?
Yes.
So after you were placed on probation and after you were on probation, did you receive any notice from the pharmacy board?
Last notice I got, they were gonna take my license away. So that's the notice I got from pharmacy.
Did you then go through the proceedings with the board?
I had to get an attorney to see if I can fight for it. After I found out I can fight for it, I didn't know in the beginning. So my attorney said he will handle it.
And do you recall at some point the board revoked your license? Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And what was that in 2014?
Correct.
Since 2011, since you've been arrested and convicted on probation, did you hold down any jobs from then till now?
Well, I was mostly doing volunteer work in the beginning. There was a nonprofit organization that we were working with the food bank and the churches. Then we started recently kids soccer program to help them out, playing sports.
Going back
in the
Going back to your nonprofit organization, what was the name of that?
Summon Tahanga Foundation.
And you were working with that foundation to do what?
Mostly with the food bank when I started it. So people will donate food and we will take it to the churches so they can give it to people who need it.
Who started this foundation?
There was another CEO, Ani Bagdasarian.
What is your relation to Ani?
Sister-in-law.
And did you at some point become the president of this organization?
Yes, last couple of years I took over the corporation.
Do you remain there? Remain to be the president?
Yes.
In your documents provided to the board, there is a recommendation letter by Ani Bagdasarian. Is that the person who is the secretary of that foundation?
Yes.
And did she write this letter upon your request to the board?
Yes.
Now, tell me exactly what did you do for this foundation? And how many hours a week did you spend helping them?
Well, a week it will be 25 plus hours. Mostly, like I said, we had an office where people will come in and donate cans of food where we, non-expired and non-refrigerated, so it won't go bad. And we'll work with the local churches around that area, so they can pass it out, because people will go grab. They need whatever they need from them. Till last over a year, we started another program in the same community when we saw there is a lot of activities around that area. So we started a soccer club for boys and girls there.
And do you continue to provide this service to the public at this time?
Yes.
Do you continue to go do food banks?
Well, not as much, but we still do it. Yes.
Your ability to do it, has it been limited somewhat because of recent events?
Correct.
Because of COVID?
Yes.
What about the soccer?
Soccer, we had to stop too. To be honest, we just heard it in a week or two. They might allow sports to come back, so we're still waiting.
As a part of your package, you also provided a letter of recommendation from Valley College of Medical Careers signed by Stephanie Kalnek. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay. What is Valley College of Medical Careers?
It's a private medical college that have pharmacy technician classes, surgical technician classes.
And did you start volunteering there?
Yes, I started to volunteer there.
Many years ago?
Yes.
And were you working with Stephanie Kalnek?
She was one of the main people in the office. Yes. We see each other every day.
How many hours a week would you spend of your time at that Valley College of Medical Careers?
Between 15 and 20 hours.
And what would you do there?
Usually help the school director, program director, help the students, like assist them with calculations and pharmacology. So, explain them, help them out with their homeworks and other stuff.
In the past 6 years since the license has been revoked, have you kept up with all the new rules and regulation having to do with pharmacy technician?
Yes, that was one of the reasons I wanted to volunteer in the school, so I can keep up reading the books, the magazines, studying, so I'll keep it fresh and the new programs that comes out.
Did you continue to volunteer there?
Yes.
Did they at some point hire you to actually work there?
Yeah, they just hired me as a help, so I can help out with the program.
When was that? What year?
Maybe 2 years ago, as far as I remember.
2019?
Yeah.
For how long did you work there as a volunteer and not get paid until they hired you, if you remember?
I don't remember, maybe a year, something like that, a little bit over a year.
Okay. As a part of your volunteer and employment with Valley College of Medical Careers, did you actually and were you able to keep up with all the new rules and regulations with the pharmacy technician?
Yes, that was the main things, like I said, I was looking forward to. That way I can be in a school where, pharmacy books, everything is there for me to look at it, do more research, and, keep my knowledge fresh.
Did you stop working there?
Yes, I
Why?
started. I stopped working right before the COVID, but the thing, the program director they had was gonna retire, and they were waiting to hire me if I get reinstated, but it took a little bit longer, so they had to temporarily hire someone else to go over, and I had to kind of step out.
The medication you took on January 12, 2011, why did you take them?
That time,
Let me ask a question differently. Did something happen in your life in 2009 that was devastating to you?
yeah, my dad passed away from cancer
And when was that approximately?
December 2009.
Were you married at the time?
Yes,
To who?
and my wife, Navard Dermatologist.
Is that the same person who was the alleged victim in the arrest that you had for corporal injury?
Yes,
Are you still married to her?
yes.
You have any children?
One son, yes.
How old is he?
11 and a half.
And since the incident of 2009, have you had any other incidents with your wife at all?
No,
Okay. And there was allegation, as you heard, that you actually struck your wife at the time when he was arrested. Did you hear that?
yes.
Was that matter corrected in court?
I never went to inside the court. We were outside. My attorney came, said they have witnesses. I was there with my wife. She said she can testify also.
Okay, but I don't want to hear what your wife has to say. But
No, I never went to court. My attorney said it's going to be a disturbing the peace. Just take this deal.
And you accepted responsibility.
Yes.
Has anything changed from the time that this happened until now between you and your wife?
Everything is great.
And did you learn something from that incident?
Most definitely.
What did you learn?
I mean, be more responsible, of course. I mean, there's always, there's no point of arguing or yelling. Life is too short. It's all about loving each other and taking care of.
Are you involved with your son's activities?
Yes.
His schooling?
Schooling, he plays soccer too. So both. And piano. So all of them.
Then came the incident on January 12, 2011 at the hospital. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You were arrested that day, correct?
Correct.
You'd taken 2 medications, correct?
Correct.
Why did you take those medications?
A couple of weeks ago, got a call from back home regarding my uncle having a cancer. They asked for medication. They couldn't find it there. It's expensive. Since I lost my dad from cancer, and it was like it only took a week for me to lose him. We didn't know he had a cancer. Without thinking, I thought I was actually going to be helping him out.
Why didn't you buy it and send it to them?
Couldn't afford it and couldn't do anything.
Now, when you spoke to his family members over in, was it Armenia, you said?
Yes.
Okay. The medication was required for their health?
That's what they told me, yes.
Is that what you stole that day?
Yes.
Did you steal one time prior to that?
Yes.
When was that?
A couple of weeks for that.
Early January?
Yes.
Okay. Same medication?
I think so. I don't remember. Yes.
Is that the only times that you stole from the hospital?
Yes.
No other times?
No.
How has that arrest and conviction affected your life?
Well, when that happened, I lost everything. I mean, I was in a very dark place. I couldn't do anything. I lost my job. I looked like a failure in front of my family. So it was very, very bad.
Have you learned anything from it?
Most definitely.
What have you learned?
No matter what, always gotta do the right thing. And I will never, ever wish upon someone to go through that what I want.
For how long were you a pharmacy technician before this incident occurred?
From 98 till so about 20 years, 19 years.
About 21 years?
Yeah.
And do you love your job?
Oh, I loved it.
Do you want to get back into it?
Definitely. It was something you can never get tired of it. Every day something new to learn. Love the challenge. I loved everything about it.
Why should His Honor and the board members here, along with the President, believe that you'll be an honest pharmacy technician from this point on?
I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I can promise, or you'll never hear from me anything illegal I'll ever do. And I love teaching, and I always want to pass my knowledge to upcoming pharmacy technicians.
While you were working at Valley College medical career, is that what you were doing, teaching?
Yeah, I was assistant. I was helping the students.
Were you commended for your work at there?
What do you mean?
Meaning somebody said you do great work there?
Yes, the program director always trusted me when I was helping out or with my knowledge, what I was passing up to him or sharing my opinion with the class.
Since the last decision and order by the board here, there is an outstanding balance of $4,000 plus for the investigative cost. Will you be able to pay that off as soon as possible?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. We're about to go over to cross-examination by Ms. Jarvis. So, Mr. Mehta, Poison, it's a little bit different process in which just before your attorney was asking you questions that often called for broad answers that you could construct however you wanted to provide the answers. Cross-examination is very different in that counsel, the Deputy Attorney General, may ask you very narrow questions that would only call for perhaps a yes or no answer. I need you on cross to recognize that this is not the time for you to be expansive in your answers. You should only be listening carefully to each question and answer that question only and wait for the next question. Your attorney, if he chooses, may ask you to testify further on what's called redirect if he thinks it would help for you to testify and explain or expound upon some of the answers you give during cross-examination. But right now, on cross, your job is to listen to each question and only answer the question and wait for the next one. All right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jarvis, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Teramatavoisian, your attorney said this earlier, but I want to hear it from you. Have you or have you not paid restitution to the hospital for the drugs that you stole?
I have.
And then you said that you stole these drugs for your uncle in Armenia. Were you planning to mail them? What was your intent?
No, they had a friend, so I gave it to the friend. I don't know how they were going to mail them or nothing. That had nothing to do with that.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear, so your family in Armenia called you and asked you for these drugs and asked you to give them to their friend here in the United States.
Correct.
And so for the first drugs that you stole, did you in fact do that? Turn it over to this third person?
Correct.
And did you pay restitution for those drugs? Was that included in the $7,000?
Yes.
And you never found out what happened to that prescription?
What do you mean?
The first round of drugs that were stolen that you gave to the third party, you don't know what happened to them?
No.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
All right, this is Judge DeCure. This is probably a good time for the board, since that was short cross-examination. The board can go down the line. Mr. President, you can do that, and we'll see if any board members have questions as well. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We start with Maria Serpa. Questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Tremadavosian, sorry
Yeah,
if I'm
that's
saying the name incorrectly. Uh, I have some questions about CE events, especially pharmacy-related events or education that you've been able to participate in since 2014. Can you give us some examples, or I didn't see anything in the record about pharmacy CE?
Well, the only CE I did back in the day when I had the PTCB license, the national license. But once my license got revoked, like I said, I didn't know that I can actually fight for it and reinstate it. I just thought by volunteering at school, I'll just get my keep up my knowledge from the school and the books over there. But
And
I
so
didn't
if
do
your
it.
license were to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, you guys, go ahead. Listen.
And so what would be your plans if your license were to be reinstated in some fashion on CE? What kind
Most
of CE,
definitely.
or how would you go about that?
Most definitely, I'm going to continue the education, with the laws, especially because they're changing all the time. Pharmacology, and my main thing to go back to teaching and continue passing out to the new students that's coming up.
My second question is about community service. During your testimony,
Yes.
you stated that there were community service hours that were part of your plea in the criminal case.
Yes.
And then your record shows that you are involved with community service events. So
Yeah.
I'm just confused as to if you could explain what events that are in the record are in excess of what was provided for by the court. So 300 hours were provided by the court. What would you estimate in excess of that you've done?
I didn't catch the last part. 300 was ordered by the court, the 300
Right.
hours.
And then
Okay.
what would you estimate the other hours that you've
Oh, how many I've
participated
done?
in since then, since it's been a few years?
Oh, I can say 20, 25 hours a week or more.
Okay.
Since then, I've been doing the volunteer and nonprofit, all that stuff.
So pretty significant.
Yes.
And my last question is about the specific products that were involved. They're very unique types of medications, not typically ones that we hear about in our presentations as being involved in different cases. So I want you to kind of think of, I know that's not typically what you would do is thinking clinically, but when you're looking at, especially since you are a person who's made chemotherapy in hospitals, you're very sophisticated in your practice in the past. What did you think about the medications once they left your possession, and how they could get safely to another country? Were you concerned about temperature or medications being not safe once they reached there?
Most definitely, but I didn't get, can say, I mean, they, I don't want to say they knew how to handle it. So I really didn't want to ask them questions or give them any safety tips. I mean, I told them about the condition. They know it's a medication and what it was for. So, but I didn't want to get involved in anything. I mean, I already did something really bad.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Cheryl, do you have questions? Remember to unmute.
Just one question. I was just concerned about the medication was that he received in the beginning, that he had a third party send. It seemed that he wasn't sure if the medication was received by the person it was being sent to. So I'm just trying to understand, why would he get medication again for someone that he did not know that they even received the first?
It was right after another. It wasn't much time when I gave him the second one, and my uncle passed away not too long ago after that, so I really didn't ask about the medication.
Okay, thank you for that
Thank you.
response.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Sung?
No question.
Okay. Do you have no question? Okay. Ricardo?
Yeah, no questions.
Thank you. Okay. Jig?
No questions.
Thank you. Albert?
No question. No question.
Thank you. Ryan?
No questions.
Okay. Debbie?
A couple, just a couple, and they have to do with the letters.
Yep.
So when I look at the letter, I'm assuming that your name is A. Arturan H, and the H is this name is this person that's in the letters, or all the letters are written in regards to Harat. Is that your?
Yeah,
One of,
Arutjan is like my formal name,
okay.
and Harut
Okay.
is the middle, or yeah, it's some.
Okay, I assumed that was it. I just want to be sure. And then a couple of the letters, there's like two versions from people. Is there like did you do like an older version and then got them updated? Is that what you did?
No, the thing is, I mean, I've been trying to reinstate it for over a year now, and it kept postponing. And the last time they said I have to get a new letter from my whoever wrote it with their signature and the phone number on it so they can reach it. So I had to go back to them, ask them if they can do another one, put their signature and their phone number so the board can reach them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greg, I think you're still muted.
I think Greg's speaking, but he's on.
I tell everybody else to unmute, and I don't remember to do it myself. Okay, I do have two questions. The letters that you received for recommendation, none of them state that they have any personal knowledge of the disciplinary penalty that was imposed. Is there a reason why you didn't tell these people when you asked for their recommendation?
Well, I told them kind of what it was for, but I didn't tell them the details, so I was very ashamed of it, what I'm doing, because I let my coworkers understand.
Wait, hold on. Somebody's not muted here. I couldn't hear you. Okay, please start over.
Sure. A few of them knew that it was for reinstating my license, but they didn't know what the reason was.
Right.
I already was ashamed and embarrassed. I let down my coworkers, so I really didn't want to tell them privately what's going on. Only the president of the schools, I had to let him know that, this is the situation I'm in.
Okay. Another question, as far as paying the cost, you were asked if you could pay them right away, and you said yes, but based on the information I have here, you're only earning $600 to $800 a month. How are you going to do that?
Well, I mean, I have family and relatives that, they always been next to me and supporting me throughout this difficult times.
Understood.
Well, I have to borrow them, and once I get a hopefully job, I can just pay them back monthly payments.
I understand. Okay. And I think that's it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all the questions we have.
Thank you very much. This is Judge DeCure. I'm going to allow for counsel for the petitioner. If you have any additional redirect, you can proceed with those questions now.
No, Your Honor, I don't.
All right, then Ms. Jarvis, do you have any recross?
No, thank you.
Ooh. Sorry, I heard tremendous feedback there. Anyway, at any rate, I'm going to ask counsel if, on behalf of the petitioner, do you rest your case at this point?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Jarvis has the ability to present rebuttal evidence. It's at her discretion. Do you have any rebuttal evidence, Ms. Jarvis?
I do not. Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to closing arguments. I'm going to allow the petitioner's counsel to make his closing argument first. What I would say to you, counsel, is I sustained an objection earlier, and I heard comments in your opening statement that that sort of took issue with some of the historical points in the case. So keep in mind that the convictions, the record of the convictions is a statutory thing, and so that's really something that's not here for the board to decide or determine or consider. With that being said, I want to allow you to make your opening or your closing remarks. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Having been a pharmacy technician for almost 22 years, Your Honor, for my client since 1998 until 2011, with the letters of recommendation by his coworkers going back to the initial hospital and subsequently, and also the school he volunteered in, it's clear understanding that I have that Mr. Tamarabosian has learned his lesson. He's realized the magnitude of his actions. He's realized what he did was totally wrong. He's learned from it. He's been crime-free or wrongdoing since 2011. In fact, he spent thousands of hours of volunteer work, Your Honor. We're talking about year after year of volunteer work with the Sunland Foundation for the dry food, as well as the Valley College of Medical Careers from 2017, from what I remember. His testimony that college's president knew about his revocation and the reason why. He volunteered there for some time, for about a year and something, and then because of his abilities, because of his goodness, and because of their belief in his ability and honesty, they actually offered him a paying position. And he started getting paid for what he started to volunteer initially because of the fact that they liked what he was doing. He did that to be able to keep up with all the pharmacy technicians' rules and regulations. He did it to be in touch with his career that he loved and worked for almost half of his life, Your Honor. And I believe that based on all the certificates, his work with the soccer club, with his family, with his son, as well as the fact that he has stayed out of trouble for all these years and become a grown man with a young son. He has learned his lesson and he will never, ever repeat this offense. I would ask Your Honor and the board to consider reinstating his license for pharmacy technician, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jarvis, you may make your closing argument now.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I really have very little. The board has been here and has heard both presentations at this point. The only thing I ask the board members to keep in mind for the protection of the public is that petitioner has not practiced in 6 years. He would definitely need to, potentially take an exam and possibly have probation terms to ensure the safety of the public. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the presentation of evidence and argument in this matter. So with that, I am closing the record. And I want to say also thank you very much to Mr. Tamazian and Mr. Matavoisin for your patience today. I know you were waiting for hours for this hearing. So thank you for bearing with us. With that, the record's closed and the board will now enter into the private deliberation stage of the process. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. President.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if there's any members of the public still here, but if there are, I would like to thank them for their observation and/or participation in the meeting. The board will now proceed to closed session. As indicated on the agenda, the board will convene in closed session to deliberate on disciplinary matters, discuss pending litigation, consider exam-related information, and evaluate the performance of the board's executive officer. As indicated on the agenda, the board will reconvene in open session to adjourn the meeting in open session. That portion of the meeting will not be broadcast due to technological limitations. No board business will be conducted at that time. Thank you all for participating today. We will be terminating the WebEx now to allow members to convene in closed session.
This is Christina Jarvis. Thank you all. I appreciate your time and attention today. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you again, too.
Thank you, Mr. Jarvis.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Kier.
This is the moderator,
Thank you.
and this concludes the pharmacy board's meeting. I will now close the WebEx.
So are we at question 4?